never had a withdrawal,
Instantly?
instantaneously, no withdrawals, and never again a desire to do drugs.
When we come back, you're going to find out about a vision that Steve got from God himself, that when you can take control over these two areas supernaturally, not naturally, you will fulfill your destiny. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural.
One new man.
The convergence of Jews and Gentiles, the two becoming one new man in Yeshua. When Jews and Christians become one new man in Messiah Jesus, we will experience a move of God such as the world has never seen. If you want to experience an explosive outpouring of God's Spirit, God's love, God's power, then log on to www.sidroth.org to learn more about the one new man.
We now return to It's Supernatural.
Hello, Sid Roth here with Steve Foss. Steve is just teaching at a high school Bible study, and he's preparing, and all of a sudden he sees a vision. Now, when I say a vision, it's sort of like you watching the screen on television right now and seeing everything happen before your eyes. And this vision revealed two demon spirits that are influencing all the other negative things that are happening in your life, stopping you from fulfilling your destiny. And if you can get a hold of what he's about ready to speak, it's going to revolutionize your life. Steve, tell me about this vision. I'm intrigued.
I was in prayer, and I was going to the school. So I was binding demon spirits you would expect in the school, drugs and violence and all these things. And I felt like I was hitting a brick wall in the spirit. And all of a sudden, my eyes were open, and I saw the campus. And I saw these two giant tentacles coming up from either side of the campus, and they were wrapped together up top. Attached to them were all these smaller spirits with like legs in these tentacles. And I saw the names of all these spirits, fear and anger and rage. So I thought to myself, aha, I see where they are. So I began to pray at them. And when I prayed against them, I saw them being hit by the power of my prayers and knocked back. But as soon as I stopped praying, they were able to stand up strong again. And I realized they were getting their strength, their security from these two giant tentacles. And I said, Lord, what are those tentacles? And he said, son, those are the two demon spirits that every other spirit gets its strength from. They're the same two spirits that hit Adam and Eve in the garden. And I said, well, what are they, Lord? I continued to pray for nearly 30 minutes, having this vision, going deeper in the spirit, when all of a sudden my eyes went beneath the surface, and I saw the names of these two spirits, insecurity and inferiority.
You know, I think in terms of that being just because of your circumstances in life, you're insecure and you have these problems, but there's actually a power behind that feeling. There's a fear.
It's a spiritual root. It's a strategy of the enemy. You know, in the Garden of Eden, when in Genesis chapter 3, Satan came up, the serpent came up to deceive Eve. And what he did is he attacked her with these two things. He first said, basically, God is lying to you. You will not die. What God has told you is not true. Everything Eve knew to be true was based on the Word of God. Her security was in the truthfulness of God. When she began to question the truthfulness of God, he released upon her the first of these two spirits, the spirit of insecurity. She now doesn't know what to believe. And then he comes to her and he says, God knows you'll be like him, knowing good and evil. You'll be like God, knowing good and evil. The lie about that was, in Genesis 1 and 2, God had already said he created man in their own image. Eve was already in the image of God, but the serpent said, you're not really who you think you are. And he released upon her inferiority, which is the sense of feeling lower in position or stature. So once she felt insecure and once she felt inferior, she needed something to get a hold of to get a sense of security back and a sense of value back. So he offered her the fruit. And I'm telling you, Sid, it's the same strategy that is binding people up and keeping these strongholds coming back into their lives, just like we talked about earlier. In my life with drugs, I was looking for something. I went to drugs so I could get new friends, so I could feel more valuable about myself and feel more secure.
Well, when you teach this, you have literally a laboratory, a congregation,
Yes.
of which you're the shepherd of. When you make this, number one, you make it required teaching, but do you literally, like when you're praying for these demon spirits to come off, can you, just like in that vision, can you almost sometimes see them get off of a person and then see the fruit that change lives?
You see the revelation take place, as we teach, in our congregation in Keller, Texas. There's such we take people through this, we bring them this teaching, we impart it into everybody that even visits us, we impart this teaching into them because it's so profound, and they get the teaching and they start coming into supernatural experiences because that's where they get the revelation of the Messiah.
Let's take an example, a real life person. Pick a couple that perhaps has a marital difficulty. That I'm sure in your congregation.
We had a couple come in our church, and they were literally on the verge of divorce. I mean, home was World War III. It was terrible. And I recognized the battle. The husband was struggling so much because he said, everything I do doesn't seem to work. Nothing I do for my wife, she seems to respond to. When I got down to the root, she had such horrific feelings of insecurity in the relationship, and she always felt so low in value about herself that she kept grabbing for things, manipulation and anger and rage, to push back. See, what happened was, Sid, she was so filled with fear that the marriage was going to fail, that it actually caused the marriage to begin to fail because of the insecurity and inferiority, which gave the fear the strength to work in her life.
It's sort of like Job said, the thing that I fear has come upon me.
Exactly right. And once she started getting a hold of this revelation, everything changed in the marriage. They said the marriage has never been better. There's strong members in the church, heavily involved. It's amazing to see the transformation when they got a hold of this revelation.
How about some teens in the congregation? Tell me.
Oh, you see the teenagers and young people.
They're dealing with such pressure.
And that's why they go into all the peer pressure. That's why so many good kids in church end up with a bad crowd, because at some point they start feeling insecure, they start feeling inferior. So in order to make myself feel more valuable, or in order to fit in, I'll get all the piercings, I'll put the different colors of hair, I'll listen to the music, I'll go to the parties.
I often wonder why they destroy the beautiful appearance that God gave them. They look hideous. And they think it's cool.
They think it's cool, and that's what's driven. That deception comes on. I'm grabbing hold of these fruits of the spirit of the world, of conforming to the world, and it's what's leaving our generation so bound up. This is also why I said so many young girls are engaged in immoral